I have excellent news for all of those Democrat voters and progressives. The rich are going to get richer. Joe Biden proposes $6 trillion budget that would break debt records going back to World War II. And I say it's good news because now it means you get to keep ragging on the wealthy. You don't have to give up your political positions. There's no victory in sight, so you can keep complaining about the same things without fear of having to learn anything. You see, voting for Joe Biden was perfect if all you want to do is constantly complain about the rich and not actually have to do anything. And the best part is you'll be getting poorer while all of this happens, which will exacerbate the problem and make your claims that much more credible. It's great, isn't it? Voting for Joe Biden had the opposite impact the left claims they want to occur. Joe Biden's going to be spending ridiculous amounts of money. The debt will be getting worse. The numbers are rather shocking. But the good news is for all of you who are particularly wealthy, if you're holding debt, that debt will become less valuable. So as long as you're holding hard assets, this is great news for the wealthy. Oh, just wonderful. Maybe you're somebody who owns some homes, some cars, you have loans on them. Well, as the dollar loses value because of Joe Biden's mass spending spree, the amount of labor you owe to pay back those loans goes down. And the great news is for all of those poor people, your purchasing power goes down. So you'll be less able to buy the things you need. You will not be able to get a loan for a house. But hey, have you seen the housing market lately? Oh, that's right. The people with money are buying up houses like crazy, walking in, just dropping cash on the table or buying property sight unseen. Poor people, good luck getting rent. You're not going to get approved. You got $1,000 in savings? It's only worth $400 now. After last year, who knows? Maybe not 400. But Max Kaiser was on the IRL podcast this past week, and he said that, or was it like 2 weeks ago now? Wow, it's been a while. He said that inflation's probably closer to 10 or 15%. Now, maybe Max is not right. I don't know. Apparently, the number right now is 4.2% inflation, which is still ridiculously high. But I trust Max. Why? Well, these people in government are going to lie to you. I know it may be shocking to learn, but they're going to lie to you. They don't want you to know how bad things really are. They don't want the poor people freaking out. But the cost of goods, it's already skyrocketing. So what does that mean for rich people? It means nothing. I mean, people who had the money to buy a ton of Bitcoin or a bunch of ridiculous cryptocurrencies and who are smart investors and held on to it have been laughing the whole way through. The value of the debt of the rich is going down. The value that they owe is going down, and their hard assets are going up. It's perfect. It's perfect. If you are an oligarchist, you should be very pleased. The Daily Caller reports Joe Biden is expected to propose a $6 trillion budget for 2022 that would break World War II era debt records. The New York Times reported Thursday. The budget will drive federal spending to $8.2 trillion by 2031, according to the Times. Federal debt would reach 117% of economic output by 2031 and would break the record set by the United States in World War II by 2024. The budget is expected to include money from traditional infrastructure needs, such as roads, pipes, and broadband internet, as well as child care subsidies, universal pre-kindergarten, and national paid parental leave, according to the Times. The budget will reportedly be financed by increased taxes on corporations and wealthier Americans. But the hikes will not be enough to finance the entirety of Biden's proposal. This is similar to the American Rescue Plan, which is expected to raise the debt by $3.8 trillion by 2031. According to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. Many states, including big spending California, Illinois, and New York, already have budget surpluses as a result of federal bailout money from the ARP. Many economists believe that the large amounts of cash dispersed by the Biden administration through the ARP are a key cause of current levels of inflation. When you add $1.9 trillion to an economy that is only $400 billion away from its optimal performance, you're going to have a lot of excess spending that just goes into higher prices and inflation. We're starting to see that now. The Manhattan Institute economist Brian Riedel told the Daily Caller in an early May interview. Larry Summers, he is a former Clinton and Obama official, is warning about inflation. I don't think these people care about the poor. I mean, I shouldn't even have to say it because it's just obviously true. They don't care about you, and they're going to make your life worse. Man, I'll tell you, the worst possible thing about all of this is imagine being someone of modest means, which most of you probably are. And you vote against Joe Biden because 2019 was one of the best economies we've had in a long time, albeit the debt was still going up, so it's probably still getting worse. But we had a good economy, and you think, okay, all the spending's bad. And then these Democrats vote for Joe Biden, having no idea how any of this stuff works, and mostly just because they hate Donald Trump. And now you get to watch as your savings dwindles. What's that? Gasoline at a 7-year high. So when you work for 1 solid hour and get paid let's say $20. Let's say you get paid $20 in 1 hour. Under Trump, you could have bought yourself like 12 or 13 gallons of gas. Now, under Joe Biden, you work for that 1 hour, you're going to be getting yourself like 3 or 4 gallons of gas. No, seriously. I mean, it was like $1 something under Trump, and now it's up to like $4. So that means you have to work 4 or 5 times as much to get the same amount you would have gotten under Donald Trump. All right. I mean, that's what they want. This all makes sense. If you look at the Build Back Better, if you look at the Great Reset Initiative, the World Economic Forum, they don't want you buying stuff. They don't want you consuming. I mean, I got to be honest. People should probably not be over consuming anyway. But there's a big difference between buying an extra couch and tons of, video game consoles and, paying for gas and food. And that's, I guess, the point. They want people to stop buying a PlayStation. They don't want you buying new clothes. They want you to be stressed about whether or not you can buy food, but just enough to where you don't go insane and riot. Larry Summers is urging Washington to tap the brakes on stimulus or risk unleashing a serious burst of inflation. I think policy is rather overdoing it, Summers said in recorded comments at a CoinDesk conference that were released Wednesday. The sense of serenity and complacency being projected by the economic policymakers, that this is all something that can be easily managed, is misplaced. I don't think he gets it. They want this. I will point out what may happen is we'll see a good economy and we'll see inflation. So with all of this spending, there's going to be a lot of money going into the system. What effectively happens is that the value of people's savings is being stripped away. It's a hidden tax. So they can take your resources without you realizing it. It is so clever. Central banking, man, so smart. You have $100, you can buy 100 apples with it. So then they print another $100 and all of a sudden you can only buy 50 apples. Your resources have been taken from you. They've been given to someone else, and they call it that you could liken it to wealth redistribution. The only problem is it doesn't impact the ultra rich. The ultra rich have their wealth tied up in hard assets and some, non-fiat liquid assets. Take a look at all the rich people who bought crypto. It breaks my heart to see it. It really, really does. There were reports coming out about Bitcoin. And the latest price collapse. Elon Musk comes out and says, we're not doing Bitcoin anymore. And the price drops. But people didn't realize, apparently. And you definitely fact check me on this one, because I was just reading some scuttlebutt. They were saying that $250 million in Bitcoin moved before Elon Musk made that call. Then everybody starts selling off their Bitcoin, their cryptocurrency. And most of those transactions were in the couple hundreds of dollars. That means it was regular working class people and poor people who were selling off their cryptocurrency. And then the ultra rich, what did they do? They bought up hundreds of millions of dollars in crypto. So it just gets worse. They have clever ways of constantly stealing the resources of the poor, and poor people keep falling for it. It is absolutely heartbreaking. The former Clinton and Obama official took issue with how the Federal Reserve and fiscal powers continue to turbocharge the economy, even though the once real risk of catastrophic deflationary spiral has since faded. We're taking very substantial risks on the inflation side, Summers said in remarks originally made May 18th. Prices have risen sharply on everything from used cars to lumber to steel to food, and most of you know this. If you've been watching my channel, for instance, once viewed as a candidate to run the Fed, Summers pointed to how the central bank is signaling that the interest rates will remain very low for the foreseeable future and continues to buy $120 billion of bonds each month. The Fed's idea used to be that it removed the punch bowl before the party got good. Now, the Fed's doctrine is that it will only remove the punch bowl after it sees some people staggering around drunk. This is going to be great. Let me show you something. It's going to make you laugh. It'll make you cry. And don't say I didn't warn you. You ever check the usdebtclock.org? usdebtclock.org. Check it out. We got a running chart of all this stuff. Now, what I want to show you is the U.S. debt clock now, and I want to show you the projections for 2025. And if you trust this, I don't know if they're correct, but based on the data they've had, tracking what's happening now, you will get some projections about the next 4 years, and it ain't looking good. So I understand. Look, if you're of modest means, if you work a small job, if you're making 35, 40K a year, you're not going to be able to put away money like the rich are, like wealthier people, like the upper class is going to be able to. And they're going to buy Bitcoin and gold, and they're going to invest, and they're not going to get hit by this. But you will. And that's thanks to Joe Biden. I genuinely believe Donald Trump wanted to help this country. I think Donald Trump loves America. I think he's got attitude problems. And I think the only thing he really cared about was America. He viewed America just as America. But the people like Biden, the establishment elites, they view America as the world. We're in charge of the world, and we're the world police, and we dictate, so saith the petrodollar. Donald Trump didn't care. He's like, I don't care. I want factories back in America. I want Americans working. Well, they couldn't have that. Currently, the U.S. debt clock says the U.S. national debt, $28,338,850,000,000 and rising. It's going up so fast, I'm not going to continue to read the hundreds of thousands. U.S. federal spending is skyrocketing. The U.S. federal budget deficit is $3 trillion. The debt per citizen is $85,000 and per taxpayer, $225,000. The U.S. federal tax revenue is about $3 trillion. The revenue per citizen is $10,000. So it's not going well. But let me show you something. Let's go to the unfunded debt interest section here. They say savings per family, $36,389. Personal debt, $64,000. Total personal debt is $21 trillion. Credit card debt is nearly $1 trillion. Now here's where it gets crazy. The U.S. federal debt to GDP right now is 127.91%. In 2000, it was 57. In 1980, it was 34. In 1960, it was 52. That means the debt to GDP, we are massively incurring debt. Now, what happens with that? As the petrodollar, we can sort of get away with it because we have all the guns. So when it comes to these other countries who can get really mad that the US dollar is being devalued and gas prices are going up, crude oil is going to start going up, what are they going to do about it? We got the aircraft carriers, we got the bombs, we got the planes, and that's how it works. But I do think you're going to start seeing instability because, people are not going to be happy with this. I will add, however, these governments, like the wealthy, can easily hedge their dollars and probably be fine with storing their value somewhere else. If they want to buy oil, however, they will need those dollars, so they'll have to do some conversions. Let me jump to 2025. On the track we're on right now, and let this be a warning, moving into the next election cycle. I don't know if the U.S. debt clock's predictions are correct, but I think you should absolutely show this to your friends and your family. Let them see this and say, on the current track we are on now, the U.S. national debt will reach $50 trillion in 4 years, almost doubling. The U.S. federal debt to GDP will be 192.37%. Now, here's where it gets really, really weird. Savings per family. They say liquid cash and personal savings for all U.S. families divided by the number of U.S. families. They're saying that in 2025, the average the savings per family will be $500,000. That can't be right. $500,000? Okay, hold on. Right now, they say the savings per family is $36,000. How could it be that there will be a more than 10x growth in savings? That doesn't make sense to me. Maybe that's just an error in their calculations. I don't know. Or maybe inflation will get so bad that people will have $500,000 and it will be worthless. Because everybody's got $500,000. This is what the left doesn't understand about economics. The value of the dollar is relatively meaningless to a certain extent. Now, it's meaningful when it comes to your savings. I built a birdhouse. I sold it for $20. That $20 is supposed to get me enough to make another birdhouse. Let's put it this way. You run a business. You make birdhouses. It costs you $10 to buy the materials. You make the birdhouse, you sell it for $20. That $10 is your profit. It allows you to buy a sandwich and a glass of milk. Now you have your lunch for the day off of one birdhouse. However, there's a little bit left over. Let me slow down. It costs you $10 to make the birdhouse. You sell it for $20. You take that $10. You take 10 of that dollars to buy more materials for a birdhouse, and the other 10 to buy your sandwich and your milk. That's your profit, right? Okay. Now let's say you buy your materials for the birdhouse for $10, and then you make a birdhouse. You sell it for $20, and then you sit down, kick your feet up, and say, "I'll make another birdhouse tomorrow." Tomorrow, the materials for your birdhouse cost $20. That means the work you did yesterday netted you $0. Oh no, but you've already spent that $10 on your lunch. So now you only have $10 left, thinking the price of lumber would stay the same, and it jumped up. Now you can't afford the basic materials to even make another birdhouse. You see the issue here. People on the left seem to think that $15 minimum wage is the magic wand that's going to change everything because they don't understand economics. You can remove the dollar from the equation and just talk about people working in exchange for other resources. Value. The numerical value of the dollar matters in a lot of ways, don't get me wrong. But what really matters is how much we value the time of certain jobs being done. And the truth is, there are many jobs we don't value. Working the register at McDonald's. We have kiosks that can do that now. So we don't value it all that much. Why are we going to pay more than minimum wage for it? Some places will pay $10, $12 because they do still need some staff. Not more than the minimum. And that just shows they'd pay you less if they could. A lot of people would be working if that were the case. And here's what you end up seeing. Once we realize that nobody really values the cash register worker because it's cheaper just to buy a kiosk, well, then we don't hire the cashier anymore, and that person no longer has a job. Because technology is cheaper than cheap labor, why hire someone at all? This person now has zero access to generating resources to be able to buy the things they need. This is a very serious problem as technology advances. But the left seems to think they can force companies to pay more for something they don't value already. It doesn't work. There are some issues with the minimum wage that does work. So, look at me, fairly centrist on the issue. It benefits us based on imported goods. Certain other countries and other areas that don't have a minimum wage, their labor will still be valued very, very low. So I love how the left sort of plays every issue. They're mad about Foxconn in China and the horrible living conditions and wages these people are paid. Yet they don't want to pay more for their goods, and so they support these free trade agreements. Let me break it down for you. If we had legitimate communism, I mean like the way the utopian, left feels about it, your standard of living as an American would be in the gutter. You know why? Because we use overseas sweatshop labor and serf labor and slave labor. It's a reality. The left loves it. That's why they're criticized for using iPhones and things like that. And then they go around saying like, I can participate. I can make society better even if I'm participating in it. And that stupid comic by that guy who's not smart enough to realize how economics works. Okay. When you buy an iPhone, when you buy any smartphone, I hope you recognize that the reason you are able to afford it as an American is because they are paying someone dirt. Now, you're also paying a massive premium. I think it costs a couple $100 to make an iPhone you buy for $1,000. So you're paying a massive premium then to that company so that those people can be rich. But still, if we were to normalize the salaries of every single person on the planet, the standard of living for everyone in America would drop precipitously. And in many of these other countries, it'd go up only a little bit. That's the reality, only a little bit. You see these CEOs, they make $13 million a year. at these big companies, with like 50,000 employees. And the left is like, why are we paying this guy $13 million when we're only getting paid $15 an hour? He should give his money. It's like, how much would you really end up getting? How much would you get? Like $25? You'd get $25. Now, I'm not a fan of these ultra rich people getting all this money because it gives them too much political power. But you don't solve the problem of wage inequality or wealth inequality by just saying someone can't be rich. I guess the idea is you don't let them be rich, then there's no inequality. So what? Cut off the tall grass and then everyone's equal? Yes, that's the idea. But that's not what's happening now. The rich are probably loving it because they've hedged their bets in many different ways. Bitcoin, gold, silver. Man, I bought gold last year. I bought silver but at the beginning of the pandemic. It's almost double in price. Well, okay, it's up like 60%. It's crazy. Were you able to buy silver? Did you buy gold? Precious metals, man. I mean, Bitcoin was a better investment, but precious metals were also good. So I saw what was happening. I saw the inflation and I said, I'm going to put my savings into something because I don't need immediate access to it. But what if you're poor? You have a savings account, but you might need to pull from it. It's not so easy to pull from when it's a hard asset. It's not super difficult, but if you're buying silver, you got to go sell the silver. And you'll probably lose you'll pay a premium, you'll lose a premium, you'll lose a bit when you sell it. Bitcoin's a good place in my opinion. That's what I'm doing. I'm not giving anybody advice, but the poor don't have that option. So here's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be bad for everyone right now. Most of the poor people, your savings are going to get wiped out. But debt is going to get devalued as well. So there's a net positive. I do think this can lead to an economic boom that will, but it will mostly benefit the ultra wealthy. It will make wealth inequality substantially worse. Look at the net worth of Bezos and Zuckerberg skyrocketing in the past year because their money wasn't in US dollars. Well, you can thank Joe Biden for this. I hope you guys are ready for what happens when he keeps paying people not to work. And by 2025, we see a nearly $200 debt to GDP. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see y'all then.